Misogyny and sexism. Do you think people know the difference? And do you think there is a big difference?
I don't really think there's a difference between misogyny and sexism, because both deal with, putting women below men.
Exactly.
The only difference I see with sexism today is we could probably add the LGBTQ. So you could say this sex, that sex, this type of person, that type of person,
Absolutely. They definitely go hand in hand. And sexism is the disregard for women, of women, and misogyny acts that out.
Mm-hmm.
So do you believe that, well, here's what I will say. What have you experienced as far as misogyny and sexism?
Do I believe that what?
What have you experienced? Like, what is something that happened in your life and you're like, man, that was completely sexist or misogynistic?
Everyday life.
Oh, yikes.
And can we acknowledge what's going on politically right now?
Exactly.
Yeah, no one took Kamala seriously before she was running with a white man.
Mm-hmm.
Basically illiterate white man, in my opinion, but whatever, it is what it is. He's not Trump. But yeah, so no one took her seriously before, and she had the same ideas that she has now. So that's
I think that the person that is supposed to be the leader of this country is kind of the epitome of misogynistic and sexism. So I don't really feel like we have the best examples.
we know that. We know that. That's a given. But I was talking about an example of misogyny as in how it's affecting women.
Well, and that's funny that you say that, because women weren't granted to vote until 1920, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. I think it was that,
19th
and then
Amendment.
We also had, but we also, wasn't there something else? I don't remember everything, but remember in the 50s, 60s, they were going around braless for some other type of female.
I don't remember, but that's really interesting. I have to look that up.
Yeah, it was something like they're going braless and on horses and stuff, to show we deserve rights, we deserve equal this and equal that. And then I also remember during World War II, when they had the because women had to take care of everything, women were sending supplies out to the men who were at war. And so then we had that, figure of the Betty showing her muscle because of that. Thank you, U.S. history. So I recall that. But so it's misogynistic. It's we're only
Absolutely
recognized for our power, and that's what I was saying with Kamala. We're only recognized for our power if it's in support of a man, but not solely.
Right. So I was reading this article, and this pretty much is spot on of everything that we're seeing. It says sexism is defined as economic, political, and social discrimination against women based on the belief that men are superior. Pretty much. Yeah. Is there anything that... No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's sad that, because that also bleeds into that's not just how men think, it's how women think, and we catch ourselves thinking that sometimes, which is
so we've been so programmed to think a certain way.
What were you about to say? Do you have some more stats for us?
Well, I actually was just going to ask if you've ever seen something happen. I know that we're obviously impacted every day by that system, but has there been anything that you've kind of witnessed?
What do you mean?
Someone else experiencing sexism and you're like, oh my gosh, it's messed up.
I mean, I don't see when I don't experience sexism or see it experience sexism when you're walking down in a sundress and then you can get kidnapped, but the guy in shorts isn't going to get kidnapped.
Right. And then, what is crazy about that is we're always supposed to be in control of someone else's thoughts. So therefore, we, like I said before, we have to be very mindful of what we're wearing, because if something was to happen to us, and this isn't everyone, no one's going to react in the same way. But I think some reactions are, well, what were you wearing? You know,
Yep.
basically we're asking for, which is completely wrong.
That's exactly what I heard.
But
Exactly.
going back to something that we've witnessed, I was watching Avengers interview, and I know you know Scarlett Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, she was on an interview with all these different superheroes that are men, and, you know, their questions were way more advanced. But hers, what I noticed was like, well, what kind of diets were you using to fit in your costume? So it was basically just fashion questions, diet questions. I'm like, that's completely sexist right there.
Mm-hmm. Like we have no other value.
We have no other value but to explain how you fit in that outfit and what material is that, you know?
Yeah, or like to appease the female viewers. Oh, females aren't interested in the Avengers, so let's add to the interview and just talk about the outfits. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't mind them talking about the outfits and diets, but they should also ask her the other questions
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
nothing wrong with that question, but when you watch the difference between the male getting their questions,
Mm-hmm.
like even the fact that one of her co-hosts noticed it and acknowledged it too, they were not too happy about it.
No, I think it's ridiculous because I'm just thinking back to when Oprah would interview Tobey Maguire when he was getting ready for Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And she would like be like, your abs, like what diet did you do? Like it's not sexist, she's just asking.
Yeah.
Asking every person, like, how did you get that fit? You know, blah blah blah. So yeah, I agree that it's very disheartening and wrong that they only ask Scarlett Johansson, because if you look throughout Avengers, like all of them are fit. Like what diets did all of them go on? What
Exactly.
were they benching? Like they should,
Right.
you know, be an equal opportunity offender if you're going to do that.
You know, something that I've experienced is more so like the reactions I get. Like some people are kind of shocked if I'm into a certain thing, and they're always like, oh, well, you don't look the type that would like that. I'm like, well, okay. Like, what do I say to that?
Like what?
Well, just like if my interests are something, you know, I'm into a lot of unpredictable things. Like I might binge watch the behavior of sharks for hours at a time, like just nerdy stuff, right? And I think there are some reactions that are like, oh, you just don't look the type that would be into that, as if I'm supposed to just be into like makeup and Barbie dolls and all that kind of stuff.
Solely.
Exactly.
That's not. Yeah, people think everyone's a monolith. So for those who don't know what that is, it means like you're one-sided, mono.
Exactly. What do you think are the misconceptions about women that people always overlook?
I think some of the common misconceptions is that we're always irritated. But I mean, okay, I'm gonna say it to a point that can be true because people just do some dumbass shit.
Yeah, people are just really ridiculous. Can you blame us?
Yeah, so I'll be the first to say that. But the thing is, like, if we're irritated that we're on our period, sometimes it is true.
People jump to that all the time. It's so rude.
I know it's rude, but then at the same time, I know I asked that question too, because I'm like, oh my goodness, is this woman going through menopause or something?
Yeah, you'll be like, are you sure it ain't your birth control making you act crazy?
Yes.
Like, excuse me?
Well, it's just because sometimes it's like when someone's just acting so like abnormal to you, it's just like, okay, there has to be some underlying reason, because it's like this is not you right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, well, I've had people come up to me and I wasn't me, and you know what? Sometimes they were right, because then I had the period the next day.
But it's not okay for people to highlight that though and make it a problem. Like, because it's normal, and that's the thing is like our bodies, it's all normal. The things that we go through, it's normal, and we're made to feel like it's not, and so we feel like bizarre sometimes to just kind of be a woman and go through that, which brings me back to this. Here's one of mine is like, we're too emotional to make logical decisions.
Oh, brother, that's the same. That's under the same
You
strand.
know, like we just can't think through anything. We're just, yeah, we can't even think straight because we're so upset, or we're such emotional creatures. We can't, which is completely wrong, because there are men that are just as emotional, if not more,
Oh
than we are.
God, every war. I what was it? Alexander the Great. I'm going to start a war to get this woman.
Oh my
It is
gosh.
like it's everything like everything's taken to the extreme.
You
They
know, it's so
can't
funny
not
that
do that.
it's so funny that you say that, because I remember this. I don't know. He worked for some type of news place, but he had asked this woman. He was like, "Do you think a woman would be able to run this country?" And she was like, "No, you know, her hormones would go all over the place, and she'd start a war." And he's like, "Oh, like the men did?"
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, give us more of a benefit of the doubt than that.
I think it's like this. I think men they start wars and then women finish them. Like
Mm-hmm.
like men will start a war, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then women are like because we're so emotional. We're just trying to figure out how is this going to end? How do we get back to whatever we want to do? Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like women like we're focused on what we want to do a lot of the times and whatever brings us peace. And so we just want to get back to that point. And so I know a lot of times we'll just like we'll do certain things to keep the peace so that we don't have to deal with it. We don't have to go to war, because I do think that once you are at war with women, like let's bring it to an argument or something, it's just like you don't want to go there.
Yeah, it's just
we're
too
just
much.
we're just smarter than you and all other things, and you'll just be upset with yourself. So
What kind of things would you like to see go forward as far as like improving? Like, is there anything you think that we could improve as far as like the stereotype that women have,
mm,
unfortunately?
which ones? Um, I think I don't know. Like there, I think there's a stereotype that women. Um, there's so many. There's the stereotype that women have to submit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a stereotype that women, you know, have to be like that. Femininity is only expressed. Sorry, is only expressed through being like so pretty and
Oh
always.
my gosh, that is such a good point there.
Yeah, so I think those are the stereotypes we have to change, because there are feminine looking men and there are masculine looking women, and what also defines masculinity and what defines femininity as far as
Right.
features go, as
Mm-hmm.
far as because if you look at I'm not picking on her or anything, I'm just saying facts. And there's Grace Jones, um
Mm-hmm.
there's Michelle Obama. There's plenty of women who are black and, even who aren't black, who are just kind of have this androgynous type look, like they could pass as a woman or a man. Like that's Grace Jones's thing, right? Um, but it's like, how do you define femininity and masculinity as far as
Right.
features go? So I
Right.
feel like that's a huge thing in the press. So I would like to see that kind of change, because and I think also just the battle people are going through as far as transgender and stuff, I feel like that's changing as well, because I think we were talking about Jeffree Star
Mm-hmm.
and him like being like, I am a man but I like wearing women's clothes. So then it's like, how do you define femininity and how do you define masculinity if
Right,
he's
and I
saying he's
think
a
that's
man?
great, because I think all of us have a little bit of masculinity inside of us and feminine. I think that goes the same for men. So
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, I completely get that. It's interesting. Mine is to, I think the only thing we can do is really, no, it's not the only thing, but it's important to share these experiences with males just so they kind of understand and see things differently. I think that makes a big difference.
Like what? What's
Well,
your
well, as
what
far
would
as the
you do?
conversation we're having right now about, stereotypes
Oh no, I
or
was saying
being
like
in,
what would no, I was saying what's your stereotype that you'd want to alter?
well, mine is like I might look like a girly girl. And so because of that, I must only have a one-track mind and I must only have these interests and I must only think this way or sound this way because I've experienced that. I've been into a lot of different interests, and you wouldn't think that.
Mm-hmm. So just not treating you as if you're not putting you in a box.
Yeah, you can't put people in a box. Like boxes, you know?
Yeah, I like circles. Around and around. But
so yes, the conversation will probably continue to go on.
Forever.
And that's something we'll just have to acknowledge and have more conversations on. But I think we pretty much talked about what we needed to talk about. What do you think?
I think so. And thank you for listening.
Tip of the iceberg, right?
Yes. And we thank you for listening to our enlightened discussion about misogyny, femininity, and sexism.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.